What's going on, guys? Jacob here. Excuse the mess, we just moved and I'm in the garage because my fiance and kids are sleeping. But after an overwhelming response on Instagram in relation to just a little Instagram story that I did outlining my advice to my female clients when they're dealing with all the physiological changes in their body, and as well as the psychological impact of the menstrual cycle, I thought this would be a good opportunity to do a little video that is more in depth, a little more detailed, and shows you what I do with my clients. And obviously this can be a reference point for any of you coaches or ladies out there who are experiencing the symptoms of PMS, and it can help you tackle these tougher times and make sure that you're not letting these fluctuations interrupt your goals, to become demotivated, and obviously cause you to feel frustrated. Because I'm no female, but having worked with hundreds, if not close to thousands of females over the years now, I can somewhat relate, because obviously I have to deal with it also in keeping them focused and not letting them lose their shit because they're seeing fluctuations on the scale, their mood, obviously they're in pain, or the instability that comes with the changes in the hormones, and all of these things that happen. I forgot the cravings, all of that stuff. So I thought I'd do this video to quickly discuss what happens during the menstrual cycle, as well as the practical advice that I give my clients so that they can deal with it. So day 1 to 14, the menstrual cycle begins. This is the follicular phase, and this is when estrogen is most dominant. Now, a lot of people think that estrogen's a really negative hormone, but ladies, for you, it's great. It keeps everything stable, and it's when we see fluctuations in estrogen that we start to run into trouble. And when we speak about fluctuations, we're talking about hormones working on an axis, and progesterone is the hormone that obviously changes in alignment with estrogen. So, day 1 to 14, things are pretty good. There's no real issues here. On day 15, this is when you start to ovulate. So this is when PMS can typically start to arise, and it can even last up to 7 days after menses, which is the bleeding. Now, it's when ovulation starts to occur that the body starts to change its physiology in preparation for getting pregnant and giving birth to a baby. Now, when we speak of PMS, there's a lot of individual difference and variation in how people experience, or how females experience, the symptoms of PMS. Some women get absolutely no dramas whatsoever, and they're very much able to just continue their training and their nutrition as they would have otherwise. Conversely, we have those females who experience pretty severe symptoms, and they are the ones who most likely need to adjust their training and nutrition to ensure that they're not missing training sessions, overeating. And I think a lot of this can be prevented if we simply understand what's happening, and then we have a few strategies in place to deal with it. So when I speak of symptoms, I'm talking about the cravings, the mood, the feeling weak, the bloating, the gain in weight, and obviously just feeling pretty shitty in general. But I think many of you females out there can relate to know what I'm talking about, right? So it's during this period from day 15 to 28, before menses, when progesterone climbs and estrogen crashes. This is when everything starts to turn sour, and it's during this period, no pun intended, that we need to start to make some adjustments. In terms of measuring scale weight, obviously this is just one proxy for fat loss, okay? We've got to take into account many other factors, such as how do your clothes feel, how you're looking, and it's again important to understand that there's only so much fat that can be liberated in any given period, so we need to assess the totality of variables that contribute to body composition and how we look, if that's our goal, before we get too upset that the scale's climbing, right? What I advise my clients is one of two things. Stop weighing yourself if you do feel these massive fluctuations, and only weigh yourself 7 days after you finish your cycle, so menses, and take the averages over the course of months, because that way we get a much clearer understanding of your changes in body composition, and we cancel out the noise of those fluctuations in the month. If you are someone who wants to continue weighing yourself, you might be a physique competitor who has deadlines, you might be a strength athlete or a powerlifter who also has deadlines. Obviously, we need to track weight. So my recommendations are to, again, take it with a grain of salt. It's only one weigh-in. It's only one data point. That's all it is. We need to then take averages over the course of the week, and then again over longer timescales to get a clearer understanding of what's actually happening. Now, if you do have to make weight, obviously this can be troublesome, but again, you just have to recognize it. It's very normal. It's unfortunate, and we need to just deal with it. There's not a hell of a lot you can do. It's your physiology. It's a natural bodily process that you're going through as part of your biological purpose, which is to allow the human race to survive. So be objective, try and be rational, as hard as that may be, with all of the things that you're feeling and experiencing. And obviously, this can affect your psychology, right? So we just need to make sure that we're aware, and we just keep ourselves in check that way. In terms of the nutrition, if you are somebody who experiences significant cravings, what I recommend to my clients during this time is damage control. That's the goal, to minimize the damage. We want to increase calories by about 400. Obviously, this is largely dependent on your body weight. Smaller females, you might want to have a smaller increase. Larger females, you might even have a bigger increase than that. But what we want to do is increase our calories to maintenance. Now, it's very hard to determine exactly what your maintenance calories are, but we want to increase calories somewhat to make sure we're in damage control. This is where I let my clients just eat by preference, so long as they hit their calories. Yes, it might affect some scale weight if they're eating more carbohydrates and all the rest of it, but if we're at maintenance calories, we're not gaining weight, we're maintaining, okay? And again, we're minimizing the damage that would otherwise be caused if we just give in to the cravings and eat 2 boxes of Tim Tams, a tub of ice cream, and all the rest of it. And this can really be beneficial. Just trying to hit your protein, worst case scenario, and calories is a great alternative to just throwing in the towel. In relation to training, again, there is a huge individual variation in how females physically respond to their cycle in the gym. So we need to take that into consideration. And if you are someone who feels very weak, very lethargic, bloated, just unstable when you're under the bar, then what I recommend you do is take off 10% of the load for the week or the days that you do feel like this, and reduce your volume by taking off just one set. Now, this is much better than just, again, sleeping in and not training at all, because even moderately hard training is still going to stimulate adaptations, both neurological and morphological. So nervous system if your goal is strength, and obviously musculoskeletal if your goals are to improve your physique. And just train. Adjust your expectations. Realize that you're not going to have the best session that day, and that's completely fine. It will subside, things will settle down, and you'll be able to resume your training. And this is important to keep training during these periods, again, no pun intended, because it affects your subsequent training week. And this is called the acute to chronic workload ratio. So if your acute workload increases significantly beyond what you've done chronically prior, we can increase the risk of injury quite drastically, not necessarily that first week, but down the track. So it's important, again, to just continue training, even if it isn't your best session. Finally, what I also recommend my clients to do is to track when they feel these symptoms, and I get them to track it in their nutrition log. So I give my clients a nutrition log, and they just highlight it in red, and they note down any symptoms that they're feeling and how this affected their diet, their training, and all the rest of it. And this is really important because what it allows you to do is to track it and then prospectively plan for it. So you might have less calories the weeks leading into your cycle and then increase them to account for that. Similarly, you might then align your deloads with those times of the month when you're feeling weakest, and have your hardest training microcycles the week prior. So, final piece of advice, remember, like a wave in the ocean, it's going to come and go, and before you know, things will settle down and it will all be smooth sailing, and you'll be able to resume your training and diet as you would normally following the cycle. So, girls and guys, I hope this was useful. If it was, give it a like. Comment below if you have any experiences you want to share, any other pieces of advice you'd like to leave. You're more than welcome. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll speak to you all next time. From the garage, Jacob.